good morning, everyone. We've had better mornings. Ja woke up with a stomach ache. We came out here, he ate a bunch of grass and then threw up something that looked like a banana. Except it was made out of grass, so. We're supposed to have an interesting day today, but that was not the kind of interesting day start that I thought we were gonna have, so. Hope it gets better. Days of Jordan the Lion begins now. Are you feeling any better, Ja? And another thing, Batman, you're not doing the greatest job around here anymore. Crime is up, so I don't know if you got a new girlfriend or a new video game or what it is, but you're really slacking lately. Or he's just hanging out on the phone too much, apparently. Well, I came home and had a package sitting outside my door. I actually ordered this stuff, so I know what it is. I decided to get Ja a couple of jackets, and so I ordered two just in case one doesn't fit. Skulls, and then this one is a leather jacket with a fur collar, and then these are for his paws, so when he's walking through the snow, if we end up going to Ohio for Christmas, which is kind of the plan, then it'll make it a little more comfortable for him. What do you think? Here, Ja, let's try out your leather. Let's see how this looks. Even got some pretty nice lining there, Ja. Look at that. Ja, you look like a baller. Look at you, dude. You look like freaking Errol Flynn. Ja, look at me. Ja. We can snap it up one more button, but that's pretty awesome, man. Well, he's got the other one on. Ja, I think that one looks pretty good too. You've actually owned that one before when you were a little bit smaller, probably 2 years ago. I think it has kind of a Back to the Future, kind of Return of the Living Dead 2 type vibe, Ja. Well, we just got another knock at the door. It was the second delivery of the day. Karen and Rexy sent Ja some dinner patties, his Stella and Chewy. He loves that stuff. I got another package from Merch 5. I think it's a new shirt for me. Are you excited about that? And some Christmas cards. Oh, awesome. It's my new shirt. Sweet! I've been really excited for this one. I've always wanted that image on a shirt anyway, so even better that I'm on the image as well. And the lion hearts on the flag. Alright, gang, I'm showered. I got my new shirt on, and Josh seems to be feeling a little bit better. He's getting more playful, so we're going to take him to the park, let him play for a little bit. And then I thought of what I think would be a great vlog today. I'm going to take you over, and I'm going to show you Roxbury Drive. I'm going to show you all the people that used to live on Roxbury Drive and how they're kind of connected to Christmas. Even wearing his new jacket. There's a few dogs here, not too many, but hopefully we'll get a little playtime in here, get a chase going. That's what he wanted. He had to go say hi to the biggest dogs in the park. You ready to leave? Okay, let's go. Okay. Off to Beverly Hills. See if the Roxy has anything Christmassy. Not really, but it still looks cool. There's the rainbow. All right, we have made it over here to Roxbury Drive, and where we're gonna cover is the 800 block, 900 block, and 1000 block of Roxbury Drive in Beverly Hills. Mainly on the 800 block, we're only here for one house. The man who played Mr. Potter, and It's a Wonderful Life. Now this was the home of Lionel Barrymore, one of the greatest actors of all time, one of the infamous Barrymore family, John Barrymore, Ethel Barrymore, Drew Barrymore, and of course Lionel. He played Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life. He's the man who basically creates all the problems in the movie. He's the man who, because of his wealth, he just can't handle the things that he can't have in life. And so the Bailey family has that bank and loan company that helps out the poor people in town, and that means they don't have to get a loan from Mr. Potter. So when Mr. Potter has the chance and that $8,000 becomes misplaced and in his possession, he could do one of two things. He could either tell about having the money, or he could create the problems, and so he chooses to create the problems. And this was Lionel Barrymore's house. And it's also because of him and It's a Wonderful Life that George Bailey, Jimmy Stewart, almost decides to commit suicide by jumping off the bridge. Now we're going to head up to the 900 block, and ironically, his co-star from It's a Wonderful Life lived just right up there. Well, unfortunately, this one is no one famous's, well, not historically famous's house, but it is very festive. But right across the street was a famous house. Now this house was the former home of Oscar Levant. Now Oscar Levant lived on the same street as a couple of his co-stars from former movies, one being Jimmy Stewart. They were co-stars in Made for Each Other, which Jimmy Stewart made with Carole Lombard. And then they were in a movie called The Barkleys of Broadway. And that was a Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movie. And right across the street, just catty corner to him, Oscar Levant, was Ginger Rogers. Now, the reason that I bring up Oscar Levant is because he's the man credited as naming Hollywood Tinseltown. Can't have Christmas without tinsel. So this was his home. It is a really big property though. Now right across the street, this was the former home of Ginger Rogers and her husband Lou Ayres. And this is where she lived in the prime, it looks like they're remodeling it actually, in the prime of her career when she was doing Top Hat and things like that. Well, they're nice enough to let me show a photo of the inside of Ginger Rogers' house. So this would have been the inside of her house when she lived with Lou Ayres, and well, she was married to Lou Ayres. But this is when she was in the height of her career. She was, like I said, made 10 movies with Fred Astaire, so she would have probably practiced a lot of her dancing here. And look out her window, there's a pool even beyond this. And then this would have been that's the front door where she would have greeted people. Probably her room was up in here. Kind of interesting. Kind of nice of them to let us check it out. How about that? We got in Ginger Rogers' house today. So now let's head over to where George Bailey used to live, James Stewart. Without looking up the home ownership records, it's kind of hard to tell on some of these whether they're the original house or whether they've been, you know, over the years stripped down, refurbished. You know, it's just kind of hard to tell. This is a really interesting house. Look up there in the entryway, there's like 2 statues. Pretty cool. And a kid out here reading a book at the mailbox. You got a giraffe in there. Now sadly, this property was the former home of James Stewart. Longtime home. He lived here most of his time in Hollywood. Unfortunately, when he passed away in 1998, they said that the new owners pretty quickly demolished the house and built a new one on its place. So this is not the original house, unfortunately. But it's the original plot of land he would have lived on. Too bad. How can you kill a historic house that George Bailey, I mean, so many classic characters where he would have lived. Must have been in really bad shape. Now this house has nothing real Christmassy related, but it was Rick Schroeder of Silver Spoons and NYPD Blue, this was his house at one time. Kind of covered in palm trees and everything, but now as we go over here across this street, a lot of people lived right over here, starting with that house. Much like Jimmy Stewart's house, when the longtime occupant of this house passed away, they also basically made a new house. They stripped it all the way down. They said that this house was haunted, or some people believe that it was. Said it was haunted by Lucille Ball. This was the home of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, their 2 children, and eventually her husband Gary, after the marriage between her and Desi ended. Interesting. Now, she said that she liked to have very memorable Christmases and would often like try and go somewhere very memorable. Just think of that. That's Lucy's house. And then right next door, our very next house belonged to a famous comedian. So let's walk over there. And this house belonged to, well, it was the home of George Burns' best friend, a violin-playing comedian named Jack Benny. Now, what's interesting about this house is that Jack Benny, one of the big like kind of story surrounding this house is that in 1944 he had a big time New Year's party here in the backyard, and built like a whole thing in the back, had pretty much a who's who, everybody from Judy Garland to Clark Gable to you name it, they were pretty much here. Now also at this party was Joan Crawford, Dorothy Lamour, Fred Astaire, Bing Crosby, Ginger Rogers of course because she lived down the street, Claudette Colbert, and now actually one of our next stops is right next door to here, the home of Columbo. That's right. With a great big Father Christmas right there on the front entryway. One of the most beloved men in Hollywood, another longtime resident in this house. The great Peter Falk, Columbo. Take a look at this. That really puts you in the Christmas spirit, doesn't it? Think of Peter Falk coming out those doors. Isn't that amazing how close a lot of these people really live to each other? They said, in fact, like, you could come down this street almost any day of the week and run into Jimmy Stewart walking his dogs. And they even have the angels in the yard here. Now, if you had this many people, this many famous people living on the same street, just imagine how many famous cars would have been parked out here on this street often. Now, about a minute walk away and across the street was the former home of Betty Grable, a woman known for having the nicest legs in the world. Of course, she was in How to Marry a Millionaire, she was in movies with Clark Gable. She was a huge star in her own right, just beyond having those great pinup looks and great legs. Now, this house belonged to Jean Kane. She was a musical actress. She was in a movie called State Fair. She was in a movie called Pinky. And this was her house right next to him. Now, our very next house, actually our very next 2 houses, have a lot of history to them, because where we're going to next was originally the home of George Gershwin, the great composer, the man who wrote what Brian Wilson has called at different points in his life his favorite song, Rhapsody in Blue. This was his home. Well, let me rephrase that. This is the plot of land that he lived on, because much like a lot of these other stories, the house was torn down and rebuilt. Now, after George Gershwin lived here, another famous singer, musician lived here with her family, Rosemary Clooney. And they say that Rosemary Clooney's kids would have lemonade sales out here on the sidewalks. Now, what else was really interesting about this was that Rosemary Clooney said she could remember years of living here during Christmas when she would get a group of carolers out here, like 4 or 5 carolers at a time, led by the great Bing Crosby. And then right next door to where George Gershwin lived and Rosemary Clooney, then you have where the brother of George Gershwin lived, Ira Gershwin, the lyricist for all of those great musicals and Porgy and Bess and all of those, even movies. They even did lyrics and music for the movies back then, not just for fine theater performances. This was where Ira Gershwin lived. Our next and last house here, before it becomes Benedict Canyon, this property right next to Ira Gershwin, this used to be Agnes Moorehead's house. Played Endora in Bewitched. She was also in a lot of great horror movies, a great actress of her day. But before she lived here, another famous actor lived here. Somebody we just talked about, actually. The great Spencer Tracy once lived here. And that pretty much concludes our celebrity Christmas tour of Roxbury Drive. And since we're passing by Rosemary Clooney's house, it probably wouldn't hurt to mention her Christmas connection to this vlog. She was in White Christmas. That's right. White Christmas with, ironically, the man who would come out here and do the caroling in front of her house, Bing Crosby. And so, that would also mean, if this was Rosemary Clooney's house, a young George Clooney could have been seen here in his youth. I've actually been planning on coming out and showing this street for a very long time, but I just saw all those Christmas connections to the people that lived on this street, and I thought, you know what, let's do it now. And here's a little bit better look into the house of Betty Grable. As close as I can get. I'm sorry, guys. It was kind of funny, I saw a blurb online that said at one point a neighbor of Jack Benny's got so tired of people coming and gawking at the house that they put a sign up in their yard that says, Jack Benny doesn't live here, he lives there, and it pointed to the house. Actually, it pointed to this house, his house. So just to give you a little perspective, Lucille Ball would have lived in that house right there, and then right across the street was where James Stewart lived, right there. That is one big menorah made out of tiki torches. All right, sweet. Just got home, and I guess because of the holiday season, they're doing 3 deliveries today, so how about that? I get more goodies, Jaw. Actually, I know what that is because I ordered that. That I'm not quite so sure about. Oh, that is too awesome. I do remember this. I ordered this, I don't know, a week or so ago. The new Daniel Johnston album. He put out an album for Christmas. If you don't know who Daniel Johnston is, go look up a movie called The Devil and Daniel Johnston. And what he's doing is, apparently for Christmas, he's signing a lithograph of his original hand-drawn artwork. But my sister asked me what I wanted for Christmas. I actually told her I wanted an original piece of his artwork, so we'll see if I get it this year. But I went for the CD t-shirt combo for 25 bucks, and he threw in this for free, so pretty cool. He got a lot of notoriety, gosh, I want to say in the 90s, because Kurt Cobain performed wearing a Daniel Johnston shirt, which was this shirt, Hi, how are you? Oh, that's right, I put this on my wish list. Thank you so much. Ellen Chambers, that was so nice of you. What this is a Vox AC30 little mini amplifier. You plug this right into the end of your electric guitar and you're amplified. Being in an apartment, I can't really use an amplifier, but this is the same style of amplifier, the Vox AC30. That's what Brian May from Queen would use. We're ready to rock out again, Jaw. Oh, that's cool. As I opened up the shirt, this fell out a much, much bigger hi, how are you? That's awesome. Well, goodbye, my friends. We're gonna call it a day. John and I went and hung out with some of my friends tonight, had a blast, and just a great day all the way around. We'll be heading off for Ohio in the morning, and that's it. Thank you, Leona Coulter, for becoming my newest Patreon, and thank you all for watching. Have a great night, and have a great holiday. Goodbye.